main reason why we invited Martin today is to get an inspiration how humble Estonian managed to challenge big American mobility monster Uber, and challenge it so much that over challenged it in Europe and now in Africa, and as I know, even in Asia.
Martin Villig, co-founder of Bold. 20 years of experience in startup field. The leading figure in the Estonian startup community. Previously worked in another famous Estonian unicorn, Skype. In 2012, together with younger brother founded urban transport platform, Bold. In 2018 Bold became unicorn.
Many people said to me that you copied the Uber, but it turned out you were on the same page, basically running in parallel, right?
Yes, so when we started, initially our first idea was that we saw that there was few similar applications in Europe. So one was a Greek app, and before we started, we even wrote to the Greek guys and asked that maybe we could become their app representation in Baltic states, so we wouldn't need to build our own platform. But they declined, and then several years later, Daimler bought their platform for about $40 million. So I think it was a good sign for us in the end that they declined. Otherwise, we would have built someone else's business in the Baltics.
To summarize what I understood so far, so you are not a newcomer with this Taxify and Bold business. So you've been in internet entrepreneurship for quite some years, and also hailing from another big Estonian star, Skype. So it's all interconnected, right? No coincidences.
I think it's always two sides of the story. So when we started, then me and my brother, he was in high school, and for him it was the first project overall. So he was finishing high school. We started the company and launched it in August. He went to university first year, but he dropped out during the half year because the business started to grow that fast, and then he didn't have time to study. On the other hand, I had about 15 years of experience during that time, but from different kinds of fields. But our views and maybe our characteristics are also quite different. So he represents a younger generation, newer generation, and he's more visionary than I am, and maybe I'm more down to earth. And so I think that in the start, it was a very good combination for the youngsters' vision and very high energy, and then from my side, experience, different networks and knowledge about investors, accounting, agreements, business development, things like that. So I think we made a pretty good tandem to start. And initially, we used a freelancer to build the first prototype for the first 6 months, but this wasn't very good. And when we launched in August in Tallinn, then in 1 month we got a contact from a software developer who said that he would be very interested to join us and build a great platform for us. And so we negotiated a few weeks, and during that time, as a hobby, he built a copy of our platform on his own and showed that why his platform is much better than our existing one. And so we agreed and then took him as a co-founder, as a third co-founder, then a few months after we have launched. So I think that many things have happened, and I think a very good team formed. So we had 3 founders and good base to build a great company.
Tell us honestly, how did you raise your first capital?
It was in December. And then we started already looking for expansion, the first markets to Riga, to Helsinki, and to Lithuania. And we saw that we needed money for that. But the Estonian business was decently growing every month. Probably by January, maybe we were doing, I'm guessing, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 rides a month in Tallinn. and the market share was not big, but the growth was decent every month. And the media coverage was good. People were happy. It was a new kind of service. And based on that, we managed to then get first, I think we got 5 angel investors then who joined and invested 70,000 euros by March or April. And then the second round, this end of the same year, we raised also some from angel investors and already from some local funds and one advertising company as well, AdCash. So they were all not very traditional. Some were already a bit experienced investors, and some were just companies looking that it's an interesting business. Let's invest. So end of 2014, we raised 1.2 million euros, $1.4 million, and yeah, that was basically the first year for fundraising for us.
Tell me something. This first 7 angels who gave you 70,000. What was the result by the end of all your funding, rodeo and race? How much money do you think they made on this initial investment?
I think the first valuation was 1 million euros, and they invested 70,000, so they got 7%. So yeah, I think if the valuation today is roughly 2 billion, then probably you can multiply. So what is the multiplier, the return to them? So yeah, I think that some of them have, or actually all of them have got pretty good returns, and they have on the way sold small pieces, but majority of shares are still there. So I think they are hoping that we can grow another few times in the upcoming years. So we have a long vision for another 10 years at least.
So my humble calculation, if my math is right, put it on 2000x. Is it true? From 1 million, from 1 million to 2 billion. Not a bad result. Not a bad result at all.
Why Bolt is a unicorn? So what are the key determining factors?
I think that it's different phases as well, a bit of the company. So I think an early stage, the timing was good, and the idea and the core team. So that the first years, there had been some other guys who tried to do similar kind of taxi ordering system, but the smartphones were not ready in the Baltics, so that the taxi drivers were not able to buy them. They were too expensive, and the same that the consumers didn't have too many of them, and that they tried to use some other technology. So I would say that definitely one supportive factor when we launched, the smartphones had reached about 200 euro, 250 euro price level, so that we had to explain to taxi drivers that if you lease yourself a smartphone for 20 euros a month, you need to make 4 rides, and then you can pay back the leasing and you are break even. So very few taxi drivers during that time had smartphones. So if we would have been there 1 year earlier, it would have been much more difficult just for the infrastructure side. Regarding team, of course, I think we had a great balance to start, so that Oliver was experienced software developer, I had business experience and contacts, and Markus had very great energy and vision, and that took us off for the first few years. But I think that for the success today, why we are 2 billion company and not maybe 30 million company, I think that mainly comes down to Markus as probably one of the best founders in Europe. So I can honestly say that if I would have been running the company, we wouldn't be where we are today. So we split the roles in a way that he was the driving force behind the vision and the product and in the end expansion, and I run the supportive services like hiring, accounting, legal, regulatory offices, other things that we needed. So we split the roles. What was the strength of one and what was the strength of the other?
Some facts about Bolt. Bolt is available in 200 cities of 40 countries. It employs a team of 2,000 people and 1.5 million drivers. In 2018 and 2019 recognized as European fastest growing company. Bolt started with cars ride hailing, then offered scooters, and later food delivery. Martin has a clear development vision for the next 10 years.
Well, the last part I've heard was that you are hesitant to tell about profit.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
that's what
we have a
Tell
short
us
answer for that.
Yeah, please.
So 2/3 of our current cities are profitable, where we have operated more than 2 years, and the loss is coming from the new cities that we are investing. It's mainly the Western Europe at the moment, where we are going head to head with Uber and really trying to get bigger market shares. So this is where the most of investments are going on the ride hailing side, but also we are investing currently heavily to food delivery. And as I explained, also 100 million euros this year to the scooter fleet. So we are putting 135,000 scooters on a street this year. So this was also a big purchase. So we see that we can utilize these assets for the next 4 or 5 years at least.
How many years you've been running in red, basically in loss? How many years?
We have been officially in red all the years. We have had some profitable quarters in between where we reduced the investments. But yeah, if you take our accounting report, then annual reports have been all in red.
So 9 years in losses, and a company is worth $2 billion. If my friends will find an applause of the whole, that would be fantastic. I know it's artificial intelligence. It doesn't come fast, but this is really amazing. This is really amazing. I have a small question. If you would have started your company now with a business model that has 9 years loss in a business plan, would you start it over again? Would you consider it sustainable? Please, honest answer.
Of course, when we started the business, we didn't assume that we would be loss making in the accounting sense all the time. But as we see the actual metrics, and that's all the investors that have invested, they actually look at the unit economics of every city or every quarter or every investment that we make. Then based on these numbers, we are by far the most efficient transportation platform out there in the world. So of course we are smaller than Uber, but if you look at the investments, what we have invested, we have currently invested around probably 300 million euros. We have raised more, but it's still in the bank. But if you count €1 invested has returned us more than 7 euros in the top line volume of the platform revenue. And if you compare other platforms on that, we are by far the most efficient. So for example, I can bring the Indian platform Ola. They have raised over 4 billion euros, and their platform revenue is in similar size as us. It's around more than 2 billion. So their ratio is 2 to 1, so that they have invested more than they make revenue. And in our case, it's 1 to 7. So if you calculate that, the difference is pretty huge with several others. And similar numbers with Uber has been a bit more efficient. So their GMV, or the platform revenue at the moment, is around of 100 billion, and they have invested in the range of 30-40 billion to get that. So their multiplier is around 1 to 2, 1 to 3 in that range. But in our case, it's 1 to 7. So if you look at that, and if we would like to be a profitable company, we would stop heavy investments in every city, we can be easily a profitable company. We would still be growing, but we would be growing slowly or slower than we grow now. So, for example, our this year's growth ambition is to grow 3 times.
You know what I understood so far? I understood little formulas that is very different to what we see in many countries, that your ambitious approach focused on strong belief that despite losses, growth is a priority, and because of growth, one day you could build a cash machine. That's really amazing, and that you need to have a bold vision and conviction in yourself that despite seeing red numbers 9 years in a row, which is, to be honest, quite depressing, at least from our experience being old school industrial entrepreneurs, that majority of us are, seeing 9 years in a row red, still believing that your investments in growth make sense, and not only believing yourself but convincing investors to support you. It's really great.
And my big heart congratulations for what you have done.
Thank you.
But I have a question in mind. Why are you winning versus Uber? What are your key elements that you put into the market in order to be different versus a big player?
Okay, I can answer that. So I think it's 2 things. One is fundamentally Estonians are very cautious people. We come from Soviet times, and we haven't had much money as the Americans are used to spending millions and billions and all of that. So I think that on one hand, it's our home, it's our kindergarten, how we have been growing, and how we have been grown by our parents. On the second, as I explained, the first few years, it was very tough for us to raise funding. And for Uber, it seems it was relatively easy. And for them, their company culture and DNA is to solve problems with money. And our company culture is to solve problems if we don't have money. So that you need to be much more inventive, because if you still are ambitious, but you don't have the funds that your competitor has billions, you need to come up with a very frugal and cost-effective ways. And initially, we thought that it's bad that we don't have so much funding as our competitors. But now, last few years, we have actually understood that that's a big benefit. And that puts us under pressure to actually operate more efficiently. And in most markets, we take our commission is usually in range of 15 to 20% from every ride. And Uber is charging 20% is minimum. And on some markets, they charge 30, 35, and with a hidden pricing, sometimes even more. So we are at least 10% cheaper on commission. And how we divide that? We give 5% to the passenger. That means that the ride is always cheaper than in Uber. And 5% goes to the driver, so that the drivers make more money than in Uber. And that's the value proposition that is very difficult to compete with Uber. And if we manage to operate our business profitably or reasonably well in that kind of environment, then it's very, very tough for Uber to compete with us. And in our business, the supply or the number of drivers is the key. This platform that has the most drivers, they have the shortest ETA if you order the car, and that has the best efficiency because the cars are are in paid rides most of the time. If you have less drivers, the pickup distances are longer, the drivers need to work harder, their costs are higher. So, and that was the model how we won in Africa as well. Uber charged 25%, we charged 15%, and over several years, majority of drivers understood that in our platform, they can make more money and customers can get the rides cheaper. And that's how we took over the market. And it's very, very difficult for Uber to come down so much in your cost base if you have high salaries. Your whole company culture is built on a totally different DNA than it's ours. And now we see that this kind of efficiency model is a key in platform business where every percent counts a lot. And we are much lower cost base than Uber. And we think that that's the formula we will also win in Western Europe and probably in other markets as well.
Ooh, to solve problems if you have no money. I think it's a new motto for Estonian startups, huh? That sounds sexy enough. To solve big problems if you have no money. What would be 3 qualities from your big experience starting from Skype until today that determines winners from losers or winners from waiters? Not exactly the losers, but waiters. Waiters, those people who prolong for tomorrow, let's do it tomorrow, not today, ba ba ba. What would be the 3 unique skills that you would define?
I would say the most important one is logical thinking and able to break down complicated problems into very small and logical steps, understanding the big picture, but then breaking it down and solving it step by step. So whenever you meet the founder, sorry?
Decomposing the issue, decompose it.
Yeah.
Into small part.
Yeah, so whatever you meet the founder, you can discuss some of the problems in their business, what is big problems, but you can take also some of the, I don't know, general problem of climate change or whatever you feel that you would also understand, and ask the founder to how would they solve that. And if you see that they have very logical step-by-step plan, they can understand big issues and small ones. I think that is the core. If they can't do that very well, then that's the problem, because in startup life, you have big and small problems every day. And especially the big problems are the ones that make a difference, if you can solve them or not. Second, of course, number two is the vision and also the ability to explain it very well, to sell it to investors, to sell it to the employees, and so that can they represent themselves very well. Simple, straightforward, no bullshit story. So if you ask them questions about their vision, can they explain it simply, shortly, and fast, or are they just mumbling around and trying to talk as politicians do?
And give us dessert, number 3, please. Enrico is writing down. So tomorrow he is founding a new Italian unicorn.
I think number 3 is persistence and ability to really work hard long term. So if you ask that, what have they done before? Have they been good at sports? Have they been into Olympiads in mathematics, physics, whatever? So that what is in their past that proves that they have been dedicated into some very specific area for a long time, so that they are not just jumping from one thing to another. So if I would say if these 3 criteria are in place, then already you have a pretty good base.
what would you suggest if you were a prime minister of your neighboring friendly country Latvia to do in the country to make it a startup nation within the frame of the next 3 years? What would you do without general terms and vague statements? What would be your plan to turn Latvia into a startup nation? We will be sending this piece to our prime minister after you are done. Don't worry.
Okay. I would probably talk to, I would say, let's say 50 people from the industry, starting from students, entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs, not successful entrepreneurs, investors, ministries, policymakers, all of that, to really understand what is the current picture. And I would say that I did just a comparison. 3 years ago, we founded Education Foundation in Estonia, where we thought that we need to improve Estonian education. And that's exactly what we did. We did a very wide round of interviews with different people to really understand what are the actual problems. And then we draw down 4 key problems and we started to solve that. And what I assume, without talking to these people, I think that, of course, the first things would be availability of regulation. Is the regulation supportive enough for startups? Is it easy to invest? Is it easy to give out stock options that motivate people? Is it easy to form companies? Is it easy to hire or fire people? And these kind of common business law principles. So is it easy to run a company? Can you do it online, or you need to fill in hundreds of papers? So I think that is the base. Secondly, I would look at the talent pool. So how many people we have, and what is their background, and why people are not, if they are entrepreneurial, or why they are not entrepreneurial. Try to understand what are the shortcomings there, and maybe try to explain from successful entrepreneurs, bring in some guys from abroad. If you don't have local, let's say, champions who would inspire others, then bring in some people regularly who would explain and mentor the young entrepreneurs. And probably for that, maybe you need some incubators or early stage investment funds or things like that, where you can actually mentor and support them. And then, of course, if someone is doing well, then try to give more funding to them. Yeah, I think the talent is also very, very important. So that is it easy for people to relocate to Latvia, or Latvians then to start businesses? So Estonia has startup visa, which invites also many other startups to come to Estonia and establish their businesses and startups here. So I would look at the competitive landscape of countries and cities in Europe. How would Riga position compared to, let's say, top 10 of your potential other competitor cities, and try to learn from them and take the best parts and maybe try to implement it fast, so that the environment would be very good. And maybe fourth part is talk to the people in universities, the scientists who are actually inventing new things, and understand how easy it is to take an invention in the university laboratory to become a company. Is it an easy process, straightforward? Is it standard process? Or is that the universities want to get 50% or 70% shares, and it takes few years to negotiate and all of that? And also make sure that if you get the process of the university spin-offs easy, what are the main obstacles? Usually it's funding. So technology, deep tech companies also need several years of funding before venture capitalists or normal investors are willing to jump in. So software business is usually faster. So you build a product, you launch, you sell, you get very fast feedback. But deep tech companies, they need several years of research, product development, and longer term funding. So make sure that you have smart people of evaluating these projects and do, let's say, government-based funding. Maybe government puts 75%, investors, private investors put 25, something like that. And then you can also get the deep tech side of the ecosystem more growing, and software side, if you have good environment, I think that this will grow anyway. So I think you probably have good software companies already. Try to just make sure that the environment, the support, the capital is there, and yeah, that's it. But I think that the government can only create the environment. They can't really push it. So the entrepreneurs are the guys who build companies. The prime minister can't build it. They need to create the environment for enabling entrepreneurs.
You've been very successful with Bolt. Do you believe that's your last project and you will not create another $1 billion worth startup in a completely different field? Are you done with the Bolt and you will retire after you sell your shares? Or it's just the beginning?
As a company, we definitely have a vision for the next 10 to 20 years. So as Amazon started in 95 or so, and now they are one of the biggest companies in the world. If you compare transport in the cities, it's 11 trillion business, which is 10 times bigger than advertising business. And you look at Google and Facebook, one of a few biggest companies in the world, they are in advertising business. And if you see that the city transportation is 10 times bigger, then my prediction is that in 10 years we would have 5 or 10 companies as size of Google and Facebook in transportation space, and Bolt wants to be one of them. So that is one reason why there is no point of selling the shares and starting something new right away until we see that we can still grow, we can make the cities better, we can influence people in positive way. Then we keep doing that.